And a happy new year. We are back at it. You know, in the olden days, way back when we first started this little shindig, Dr. Rob and I would only podcast during the season. We'd start around August, go all the way through. And then last year, we started doing something a little bit different, Dr. Rob, and that was, why not go year-round?
Go year-round. Let's do YouTube. We are multimedia.
We are a media machine is what we are. So last year...
It's like Owen likes to hear us say.
Yeah.
Content.
Yes.
We're content creators.
And you know, without Owen...
Owen hates the term content.
He's a visionary, though. He's made this whole thing happen. And we're
I got some sons of my own that don't like particular words, like legacy.
Well,
so Owen's content might be Caleb's legacy.
There we go.
Yeah, that voice you hear, of course, last January we started doing the offseason, bringing people into the basement, because we think the basement's pretty fucking cool.
It is cool.
And, you know...
Well, I got to be honest. It's kind of weird when you say it.
Yeah.
And if you were down here before, I call it the Owen transformation, because like 90% of what you see... Owen did everything.
So I 100% believe that. Kids are typically smarter than their parents.
Well, and I'm talking carpet, walls.
How about the little soundproof?
Yeah, all of that.
That's Owen.
Now,
that's Owen.
You've been in Damon Benning, by the way, is our guest. And Damon's here because of social media pressure. Somebody threw it. No shit here. This is the funny thing.
Real talk.
Is that somebody threw it on Dr. Rob's Twitter page that you and Greg Sharp should come up. I like just one at a time because it's easier to have a conversation that way. And Greg and I go way back. We did Creighton games together.
He's amazing.
He's a super cool dude. And hopefully you can talk to him, maybe get him up
He's a good dude.
Slip a note to Rhule, too. We've been working on that. Don't you think Matt Rhule would be cool in the basement?
I just talked to him, too. So, yeah, like he's right for the pickings because things are good in Rhule land.
I like that. Damon's just like, I just talked to Rhule.
I just talked to him.
I don't mean to say it like that. It's just
but here's the thing. You're in the program, and so that's your day-to-day existence.
You got a shout-out on recruiting day. I need to thank Damon Benning, Rashawn Jenkins.
Yeah, I couldn't believe that. He threw me into some weird company, but like he did call on the way to vacationing about an hour after that. So, and Caleb was with me, so I was like, hey, don't say a word or get out of the car because this is Coach Rhule and I'm going to take the call.
But you've been in broadcasting for a while. What I was happy about, because we were talking about just the basement, and it's kind of weird, but it's got a kind of a cool connotation to it, right?
Yep. I hope it's turning into more sort of like it's like podcast speakeasy.
But
except it's bright lights.
What made me happy was Damon's like, this is legit down here.
It is.
Yeah.
Like been a lot of places, right? Done a lot of bad things.
It's better than most radio stations.
This thing is fantastic.
Thank you.
The temp is great. The multi-camera, the soundproof walls. Like this is legit.
Again, Owen Justice.
Yeah.
Owen Justice Productions.
I saw Damon about a couple of weeks ago. We were at his mutual friend's Christmas party.
Yeah.
And he walks in, and it was Brian Cobbs who runs Abraham Catering. And he walks in and goes, hey, man, what's up? I was about ready to avoid you for like 6 months. And I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And I didn't know this because Caleb's committed to Nebraska.
Yeah.
His number 2 choice was Iowa.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah, it was really, really hectic. Down the stretch, it was Iowa and K-State and even Coach Woods, like right after they kicked the winning field goal against Nebraska. And he sent a text. They couldn't have been on the bus yet because I'm doing the 5th quarter breakdown on the Husker radio network. And he's like, hey, man, tough one. You know, Coach Rhule, you got the right guy. Congratulations. The future looks bright. And he's the same coach that texts Caleb and I, congratulations, when Caleb committed online. And I text him back because, I mean, LeVar, he's
the real deal, man.
Stud. Like, he's dangerous. He
like, that's a great way to put it.
Listen, for like full disclosure, he's unbelievable, right? So, and we talk about a lot of things other than just sports because we you know, he knows a lot of people. He's got family at Westside, and so we talk a ton. And you know, he was like, "Hey, you know, any chance Caleb holds off his commitment signing day in December?" So I kind of laughed. I was like, oh, no. So then it just got into like other things about what you want for your kids. Because his oldest son runs track and plays football, is highly recruited too. And we saw him at the Rivals or at Under Armour Top 250 camp in Kansas City last summer. And he's just a guy that I hit it off with. But just the way that they do things, and people get mad at me. It's never really calmed down since Noah Fant. Right, because he's practically family, and everybody's like, "Well, Fan announced on your show that he was going to Iowa, and you're pro Iowa." Because I don't badmouth Iowa, I don't I don't, because I know kind of behind the scenes what's going on. Tyler Barnes, great, LeVar Woods, great. Hodges, great.
Ferentz is salt of the earth, man. It's about as honest as he comes. And by the way, see, I've already made everybody listening to this podcast pissed because everybody gets mad because they're like, all you do is talk about Iowa.
Yeah. So I will say this. I will say the one thing that kept Iowa in the hunt down the stretch was Coach Ferentz said right away, because they barely give offers, right? Like they don't give like pressure offers, and he wanted us to come down.
They don't do the non-committable offers.
Nope. If they offer, it's legit. If it's not, they're not offering. And so we sat in his office, and we went with some studs. Like both Rezaks were there. We kind of did it. Spady. We did like a.
You do understand that. I mean, and I know like Spady's and Rezaks. I mean, these are people that my kids have played with over the years. Yeah. They're probably sitting there going, "It's like, yeah, we went to Iowa with some studs. Yeah, Caleb Benning was with us.
Yeah,
that goes both ways,
right?
Dude. Just throwing that out there."
And they said, "Hey, I know you didn't drive. Can we meet after?" And I said, "Well, that's cool, but like I'm with DJ, and what are we going to do with the guys?" And they go, "Well, you can just kill some time, but Coach Ferentz just wants to meet with Caleb." So. I'm on DJ's watch, and I want to be respectful because that guy is like my lifeblood, right? Like the new improved DB version has a lot to do with DJ Rezak. But anyway, and so when Coach Ferentz was in there talking and they made the offer, and he said, "Listen, at the end of the day, I'm going to tell you this." And he's a Steelers fan, so we really hit it off early.
He grew up in Pennsylvania.
Yep,
a lot of people decided who would take the Penn State job if it ever came open.
100%.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so I did not know that.
So there's two things that he said that really won me over early. Number one, he told Caleb, he said, a lot of coaches throughout this recruiting process are going to ask you what you can do for them, right? Like, how can you enhance their program? He said, just focus on what the program can do for you, because they're going to tell you a lot of things you want to hear. So make sure you consult with people that are close to you. Do you have people that are close to you? And, Caleb has his answer. And so that really, I'm like, that's pretty cool. You don't hear that very, very often. And the other thing that he said was, we were talking about if I struggle because of my job, like being in media. At that time, I was working pretty good with the Big Ten Network. And so we got into expansion because expansion hadn't started yet. They hadn't made it official about UCLA, USC, and certainly not Oregon and Washington. And he said, I ought to be getting your opinion. And I said, well, why is that? And he said, it's all about television. He's like, they pay us a lot of money with these television deals to do what we do. So ultimately, I'm not going to lose sleep over what we do with conference expansion because I can't affect the outcome. He said it's a lot of wasted energy. He said ultimately television is going to dictate what happens. And I felt like for the dean and kind of the czar and this guy that is, there's this reverence for what he says. I was shocked that he was still. He just knew. He knew like what it was about. At the end of the day, for as much pull and as much stroke and as much reverence as he had, he knew ultimately it was going to boil down to the television dollar. And he said, they pay us a lot of money, so I'm not going to lose sleep over negative energy. He said, I'm just going to tell you, like, I'm not, or I wouldn't be excited about coming back from Pasadena or Los Angeles at 4 a.m. with our schedule, but who am I to complain? I want to conserve my energy for what's important. And so those two things gave me just a snapshot and to his personality.
You know, it's interesting because Rob and I have had this conversation before, and maybe it's because I was lucky enough to be around Coach Osborne, which, by the way, did you guys both get the email that he sent out? Was that a true email that was floating around? Mm-hmm. I told this to Rob. I said, they're not the same, but they remind me of each other. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's just age, wisdom, 25 years, being able to do that. But there's some similarities there. Osborne much better offensively.
Yeah, and
both guys that would like take their time and get them all, and not sprint down and just get one.
Well,
right?
Yeah, it is. They're both very analytical. Two guys trying to do things the right way. I really believe
100%.
That. Ferentz, so here's the back. Ferentz recruited me to Iowa when I was coming out of high school because he was the O-line coach there at the time. Yep. And I hadn't talked to him in probably
20 years or more.
Yeah, a couple of decades. Yeah. Fast forward to 2 years ago, was it Linderbaum?
Linderbaum, who's a Pro Bowler this year.
Yeah, so All-American center at Iowa gets wins the Dave Remington Trophy. I go down. Aaron Graham gets
Teddy Graham's
the Gerald R. Ford Award.
Yeah, the Gerald R. Ford Award. Brendan Stye was going to do the introductory speech for Aaron. Stye comes down with COVID like 2 days before. They're like, crap, we need somebody else to jump in. Rob, can you do it?
And imagine how long that introductory speech was.
Oh, I know.
It was long. It was
slow motion. So you know the funny thing about him referencing Stye? So until I got to Nebraska, and maybe even to this day, although I did see Orlando Pace in Wisconsin because we met him on an unofficial visit, Stye and Rob were the two biggest people that I had ever seen in person.
They still are, by the way.
So, and Rob is considerably smaller than he's ever been since I've known him. So,
Skinny.
like, you got to think day one. I mean, he's 6'5", 6'6". He's 335 pounds, and Stye is this equally as big, a little bigger upper body. He didn't have Rob's legs, but I would see. You know, Rob was really smart. He talked slow and used a ton of big words.
Deliberate.
I like that. Like intentional. Let's say intentional.
Okay.
And Stye was this big guy that rode like a 12-speed. So he had these itty-bitty skinny tires, and he never drove. So I would see these giant people, and I'm like, stereotypically, like coming from where I was coming from, like they're supposed to be kind of slow and not very smart. And these guys just would like pump wisdom, and they would use these terms, and they would talk, and it was just like, all right, DB, your dad always told you, be slow to speak, quick to listen, be slow to speak, quick to listen. But I'd never seen people that big in person, and to this day, it's unbelievable.
So back in, I don't know if these have even been released, we recorded 3 pipeline podcasts in here. We had Graham, Zatechka,
Graham was the small guy.
Yeah. We had Wilkes. The only one that didn't show up was Wheater.
Wilkes was the small guy.
I mean, the brain power. I mean, you had these big old lugs, and I'm like, the brain power was just sick.
I was captivated, and it was such a good balance then because we had like these young, kind of know-it-all guys, and then we had like these older, slow it down, let's do it this way kind of guys, and it just turned out to be the perfect blend. Like it was unbelievable.
So I understand you don't drink beer. You're drinking.
I've got my Yeti. I got a little peach Waterloo, and I like some beer, but I can only drink like one, and then I'm good for maybe a couple of months.
So
it just makes me feel sluggish.
This week we're drinking some Kentucky beer, and we got the Kentucky Pumpkin Barrel and the Kentucky Bourbon Barrel. Owen got these. He was just down in Kentucky. He was at Rupp Arena. What's the brewery you went to? Is it just called Kentucky?
No, I think it's called Lexington Brewing and Distillery.
God, he's even got a cool voice.
So
can I ask him something?
Every time Owen sounds great.
He does. He's got a podcast radio voice. So what is it? Because I got a good buddy, Oklahoma Tyler, beer connoisseur, has the app. Like, is very, very particular about beer. He thinks Zipline is a tailgating beer. Like, and he doesn't go anywhere near like any other beers. And so I always ask him.
I mean, for your Lincoln beers, Corn Coast.
Corn Coast. So here's the thing, though. What is it about these beers the last couple of years where they do the barrel age thing now?
Well,
where they taste like whiskey or bourbon.
Because you've got all these, because those can only be used once, and so you can't reuse a bourbon barrel, and so you're like
by law.
So you've got.
So what happened? So whatever it's filled with.
Yeah.
What happens when you're done?
Well, you bottle it, and then you sit there with the barrel, and instead of throwing it out, you go, oh, let's put beer in there. And I think you can use those barrels a couple times.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's actually one of my favorites. So, okay, this is there's rabbit holes here we can go down.
Yeah. And don't even ask how we started.
Here's the other rabbit hole. Coffee.
Yeah.
I'm a coffee guy.
I am not.
I drink coffee oh my God. Dude, you guys are coffee.
Oh, yeah.
God,
you know the coffee you gave us for Christmas? Gone. It's gone.
If it's brown, there's a 99.9% chance I don't drink it. Not hot chocolate, not tea, not
brown
beer.
stuff.
Anyway, thank you for the arm. So he's gotten away with that for almost 20 years.
Yeah. So anyway, one of our, like I say but one of our favorite coffee places in the world is this place down in it's East Point, Florida, and it's called Bayside Coffee Company.
You probably got to have like a lot of money and vacation and do that kind of thing.
Well, once in a while. But
I haven't been to Florida since the Orange Bowl.
Okay, now keep in mind.
Why go back? You won the MVP.
By the way, keep in mind, this is Panhandle, Florida.
Stop.
Which is not Florida.
You still got to get there.
It's South Georgia.
Well, whatever.
It's South Georgia.
You didn't drive. You probably flew.
Dude, my kid goes to school. Well, went to school. They graduated last month. Yeah. So, which actually she leaves tomorrow to drive back. So
Ryan used to tell me she's like the brains of the bunch.
Yeah, they're all weirdly smart, like all three of them.
They come from your sperm. I mean, let's be honest here.
So do you know
where I see Ryan, when we're not playing or training or I'm cheering for him at Augustana? At the Lego store.
Yeah.
And so he and my youngest hit it off.
Now, how many do you have?
So I have 4. I have 2 girls, 2 boys.
Okay.
So I have Wesleyan, I have Nebraska, I have Westside Middle, and I have Prairie Lane at Westside. So it's 18, 17, 14, 5. And Ryan would see Micah, my middle schooler, over Legos. So Ryan and I like the fact that the reason he and I got close is because he's eccentric isn't the word, but he's kind of his own guy.
Yeah.
And he's he wasn't afraid to get dirty. He's kind of messy. He did things his own way. And so I like individuals. So he was telling me this story one day. I said, "Hey Ryan," I said, "what are you doing before the playoffs?" And he's like, I'm gonna go to the Lego store. And I said, "Do you like Legos?" I said, "My little guy loves Legos." He goes, "Yeah, I've been saving." And so, like, full disclosure, like, this is podcast, right? Full disclosure, you think Zatechka, you think, like, anesthesiologist, like, Jen's a genius. You're thinking you could get whatever you want. Like, the world is your oyster. But he said, I've been saving my own money, and I'm going to go to get this Lego set. It was a Star Wars set.
So those are about $300-400 a pop.
Listen,
they're not cheap. Believe
I asked
me,
him
aware.
I asked him about the pieces, and it was over 4,000 pieces. So then I was super hooked. I'm like, who has the attention span to do this? I said, how long does this take you? He goes, it depends on how much free time I have. Sometimes 2 days. Sometimes I can do it at a night. It just depends on if I want to stay up, but I like to make sure I get it right. And I said, well, who? He goes, that's why I'm looking for it used. He wanted it used. He didn't want like the brand new.
That's his father, by the way.
Because it was hard, which I appreciated even more. And he said, and I said, well, where do you get the directions? Because sometimes they don't come with directions. And he said, that's what YouTube is for. So he basically, and this is like 3 years ago, he basically taught me like what you could do on YouTube, fixing your garage, build Legos. Like, he's like, just YouTube. He goes, Coach Benning, They have videos for everything now. You just have to be direct with your search.
I just was like, oh my God, if you're not a Zatechka, I don't know who is.
See, here's the thing. So, okay, I am convinced 100%. None of us are sane.
Well,
None of us are.
So
quote,
I
unquote,
tell
normal.
people you're not,
Yeah.
but people say you're in the health business, so you have to be. I'm like, no, he's not.
I'm
I said, this dude he's nuts.
I got my hang-ups. So everybody does though. So everybody's got their therapy. Everybody's got what makes them functionable on a day-to-day level.
This podcast is my
world.
therapy.
Yeah.
Honest to God, I mean, and the radio show I do every day. It's just.
Yeah, and it's one of these things where there's like low-key functional alcoholics. That's their therapy.
That's kind of me.
I like beer.
I mean, full disclosure,
So
If I would have had like gin or vodka here, that would have been better.
so not gin,
Okay,
but 100% vodka.
really?
okay.
100%.
Okay, what
I only
kind of
drink
vodka?
So my favorite?
Yeah.
Chopin.
No idea what that is.
It's a potato vodka. It's totally fine.
Is it all vodka, potato vodka?
Yes, but it's the
Technically.
number of it's the distilled.
Okay.
It's the number of times it's distilled.
Well,
So I like that in tequila.
all right.
Either
Very
reposado or silver or blanco for some.
good. How about rum?
No, I don't
Not a
drink
rum
anything.
guy?
dark.
It's brown though.
Not even Bacardi, like the
Yeah.
light stuff.
Okay. So I've every few years I go down to Guatemala for medical mission trips.
Yeah, allegedly, in air quotes.
It happens. We're actually overthrowing governments, but medical mission trips.
You and the Hondurans.
on the surface. It's like to sport. It's like a
We don't do that here.
It's like a. Oh my God. Anyway, but no. Anyway,
Did you get
everybody's-
shots?
Everybody's got a therapy, and it's interesting because it's like my therapy. It's like podcasting, coffee, beer, and there's one other thing. Travis knows what it is, but
So for me, it's probably alone time. Like I enjoy being by myself.
see, that's. I mean, there's kind of the whole introvert thing here, but it's one of those.
See, I'm an empath, so I'm kind of like the reluctant be in crowds guy. I feel what other people are feeling, so I can like sense and smell BS. But the downside of that is I learned to play like the public game, but it's not my jam.
So you're an introvert extrovert.
I grocery shop at weird times. Like,
Dude, you were
Are you
good
like
at
at
the
midnight at
public
Hy-Vee?
game, though.
yeah.
See, now here's the thing.
I knew it.
I'm like,
Unfortunately, this whole like over the last 20 years, I knew I was gonna like TJ more than I should. Because the first time I met him, we kind of debated a little bit. We were in
What? I interviewed you.
West Stadium
Okay.
watching him practice, kind of under the awning, and like he was just so snarky, and I was like, and I'm insecure and super childish. I was like,
what?
is he making fun of me, or is this just his personality? But over time, it's just kind of your personality.
Yeah,
like you push.
It's funny. We just did our strategic planning in Kansas City, and for the company I work for, and that we had to sit like front and center to say, what do people admire about you? Like, you're like the most authentic person.
100%.
What you see is what you get.
Wait,
man.
So that's what I'm drawn to. That's what I'm drawn. Like I
Come on,
love.
you think I'm full of shit?
No, I don't. but
I love
find that
authenticity.
interesting.
Like, just let me know, and I'll figure out whether it's for me or not.
Yeah.
Just
there
don't
few,
mess with me.
There are few people on this planet who 100% do not give a rat's ass what they think about them
More than me.
more than Travis.
You know,
Travis doesn't-
Coach
he
Rule's
just-
number one.
He just doesn't
strength.
care.
You know, is like if he went to Gallup and took a strength find, his authenticity is through the roof.
Okay.
So he's not always going to say what you think is the right
Yeah.
thing, or
Just gonna be what
his
it is.
It is what
Yeah.
it is,
Yeah.
and you have to be very secure to be around
I
him.
remember talking to your wife about the fact, and this was Travis, he did the Gallup strengths testing, which I'm kind of scared to take it myself because I'm like worried what it'll say about me. But it, like, the one thing it said was that it was this, and it's interesting how the Gallup strengths test puts this out there, because the way it put it out there was your level of compassion was essentially non-existent.
0. Empathy was my last one.
0.
It's not that I
And
don't
it's
care
not
about
that you
people.
don't-
I believe that.
But
I
it's
believe
not
with
that you don't care, but you're also one of these people who will
He's
be
just
like,
pretty pragmatic.
Yeah.
Yeah. And here's the thing. There are stuff you and I totally disagree about.
Absolutely. But
But
there's a-
that I'm just like, but it's one of those, I'm going to still come drink beer in your basement because, yeah, fuck it, I know where I stand.
You know what more people still need to do? I grew up in a small town of 485 people. And we're not going to get into politics today. But you know what the greatest time was? You'd go down to the bar in the morning where they served coffee and all the farmers sat around and they yelled at each other over politics and religion and the price of corn. But they showed up every single morning and had coffee. It was
stuff you're
So,
not
so your
supposed to
equivalent
do.
would be like my barbershop. Like
Yeah.
that's why I like the barbershop.
Yeah, I mean, not everybody's good. You don't. You can
There's
disagree.
CNN, there's Fox, there's the Conspiracy Channel on YouTube, there's the tinfoil
Here's the deal.
hat guys. I love it.
This is as much politics as I'm going to talk today. The only thing I hate about politics today is don't tell me what team I have to be on. I can be on any team I want to be on. That's it.
And why can't it just be about issues?
Yeah.
Why does it have to be about a
Yeah.
side?
Which actually, I got to circle back here for a second.
Okay.
Bourbon barrels.
Oh yeah. So,
We tangented like 10
so
minutes ago on
hold on real
bourbon
quick.
barrels.
So Owen, tell everybody what
Is
you're
that
doing in
math, like
Lexington.
cosine and tangent?
Hold on.
And what's the other one?
So tell everybody what you're doing
That's
in
it.
Lexington,
Sine,
Kentucky.
cosine, and tangent.
Yeah.
I was we went down there. We drove to Lexington to see a concert where Tyler Childers.
Which by the
concert.
way, it cracks me up that like Owen will just randomly like, hey, what are you doing this weekend? I'm going to drive to Nashville and back. I'm going to drive to Louisville and back.
He went to he was in Rupp Arena
Yeah, I'm going to go to Lexington and back.
for Tyler Childers and Shovels and Rope. That's a pretty good show.
By the way, oh God, love Tyler Childers.
How was the show, Owen?
Yeah, it was fantastic. Probably the best show of the year. So
So
He said
just-
of the year.
So by the
Of
way,
the year.
Rob, the pumpkin 10%.
yeah,
So
keep your
I'm
eye
by
out on
volume?
those.
Dude, the freaking bourbon barrel ale
10%
is like
by volume?
8.2.
Yeah, is what?
So
Oh,
wait
yeah.
a minute. So like
And I
when you,
hate pumpkin beer, and I'm like, I can't even taste the pumpkin.
so when you go
over
get
the
flights
alcohol.
and stuff, don't they make that? They'd have to put that in the baby flight, right? Like you couldn't get like a regular glass. Of
Oh, it would be
10% here.
it would be they would give you an 8-ounce glass
Yeah.
or a 4-ounce
It'd be the
glass.
little tulip glass.
Yeah.
tulip.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Anyway, Owen, you were
such a
saying great show. Though. So tell us about the beer.
Okay, yeah. So you'll have to. I forget all the history of this brewery and distillery, but it's some guy from Ireland who started it. And
Nice.
so basically, what they do is they have this bourbon there, and like you were saying, the
In Kentucky, go figure.
yeah, no kidding.
Odd.
And bourbon has to be made in a new barrel that's been burned. So what they do with the bourbon barrels after is they put their red ale into the barrel, let the bourbon that's in the wood seep out into the beer, and that's how they get the bourbon barrel
Gotcha.
beer there.
10%.
Which by the way,
ABV
yeah,
for
which
a
by the way,
beer.
it's delicious. And I'm not a pumpkin ale guy. That is not my thing.
Is it part of the
I like-
pumpkin head?
It's not that.
It's not even pumpkin-y. It's not.
It has like zero pumpkin flavor at all. That's what's weird about it. The coffee. So Bayside Coffee Company.
Boy, you just did a full circle here, man.
I know, but it's like I keep trying to come back to this to finish this. So
I like
it's a
how
loo-
you can
it's
put a
loose
pen
end.
in your thoughts.
It's a loose end.
You know what? I told you to book 2 hours. Now you know why.
Yeah, right.
It's a loose end.
Yeah,
so,
so
I
full
gotta tie
disclosure,
It up.
he said 90 minutes to 2 hours. I said, I've done media for 20 years. At
Who
no
does-
point has anybody ever said book 90 minutes to 2 hours for a podcast, unless you're Cat Williams.
Okay, you got to start following. So one of my favorite podcasts is Hardcore History with a guy named Dan Carlin.
Oh gosh, hardcore history, like real history, like
Like real stuff.
like
So he'll
Stalin
do-
and Putin.
Yeah, so
and,
he will do like
oh geez,
the
Rob.
Roman destruction of the Celtic
what is
Empire.
wrong with you?
And it'll be like 9 hours.
No, seriously.
of
Though, like,
podcast.
what is wrong with you? Like, how is that remotely interesting?
I am 100%.
And who are you sharing with what you know? Like, so here's the thing.
This is just entertainment for myself.
Stop, though. Here's the thing. You can only enjoy that by yourself. Like, why is that your jam?
Hey, I know what I bring to the table.
You're not telling the gym, you're like, hey, you know what?
Alone.
With the Ottoman Empire, I'm going to tell you. If they just would have kept those boys alive until 13 as opposed to 11, boy, that Ottoman Empire would. I mean, she's going to look at you like
I
Rob,
don't talk
who are
about
we
this.
having these conversations
I'm
with?
listening to this one time. I remember, and I had Ryan in the car with me.
Oh my gosh!
And he's like, for the love of all that's holy, Dad, what the hell are you listening to?
Like, where's your sphere of influence?
Like, hey.
It's like this.
So
is
let's say
stuff
you're
that's
driving
just
down to Destin, right? Or you guys go that have discretionary income. And listen, so I tell you, I had this podcast on books, man. Oh my God, I could not believe Genghis Khan. So this, his empire and the way that he conquered these lands. Like, who are you sharing that with?
I don't. Nobody.
But see,
so what fun is that?
because
It's interesting
because
to
he
me.
just dropped it right now. It's fun for him right now to go, this is how smart I am.
It's not that. I'm just.
But
okay,
how is that beneficial? Like, all is permissible, but how is that beneficial?
It's entertainment.
Are you going to
me.
go on Jeopardy?
No, this is entertainment.
So you just keep it in that big old
Hey,
medulla
how long
oblongata.
have you known Rob?
Since I was 17 years old.
Okay, since you're 17 years old.
So
for
32
30
years.
32 years.
Yeah.
For 32 years, who's been the smartest guy in the room?
Rob.
Okay.
100%. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, this is my entertainment. But okay, anyway, Bayside Coffee Company.
Jesus.
They do.
Oh my God.
They do coffee with it. So they buy from local distilleries in southern Georgia. They buy the bourbon barrels after they've been used, can only be used one time.
So did you just pull a guy to the side and you said, hey, so
they do a
what's
bourbon-
the byproduct of this business?
Yeah, so they buy the barrels, and it's like the bourbon companies sell the barrels now. So this is a freaking commodity now. Used bourbon barrels are a commodity. So the coffee companies, including Bayside Coffee Company, buy them. They do a dark roast, put the roasted coffee beans in these barrels, age them for like a freaking year, stir it up once a month, and then they bag up the coffee and sell it. And it's this dark.
And it's really good because I just had a pound.
Yeah.
I just had a pound.
I get some of it for you. I got to be careful with it because I got some for myself. I mean, obviously, the alcohol's long gone, but the bourbon flavor is heavily in that coffee.
Yeah.
And so I got some, made a big old, I go through probably I drink usually about 32 ounces of coffee a day.
Jeez, man.
Because I'm normal.
Oh, right.
And
I'm with you. I do.
yeah, it's like, well, I don't know why you
TJ,
wouldn't.
Travis didn't even bat an eye at it.
It's like, yeah, normal amounts.
We've had 4 pots here already today.
Yeah.
Owen made a pot at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Why would you let him drink coffee so young?
Dude, all three of our kids are home. I finally got my wife hooked on coffee. Took like almost 30 years of marriage to get my wife hooked on coffee, but I finally got her hooked on
Black,
coffee.
or did she put cream in it?
Nah, she's got this like
Frou-frou?
she's got this no fat, no carb protein shake that she really likes.
Who makes it? Because I like that too.
I'd have to look. It's like Pure Pro, but
It's probably what Piper
and
looks
it is
at
actually,
and
and it actually,
because she's
so
like,
her protein shake actually has the equivalent of 2 cups of coffee in it.
So where does the caffeine come from?
Actual coffee is in it. So they actually make the protein shake with coffee, but they got a chocolate, they got a coffee, they got a vanilla, so on. Okay. They got a peanut butter, so on and so forth. I'm digressing. Anyway,
oh my God.
You digressed. Go
anyway,
figure.
so I've got my
So here's
wife.
the cool thing for me, full disclosure. I like being the dumbest guy in the room.
No, well, you're not. I am.
Like,
Anyway,
this is
I am.
cool.
Anyway, my wife.
I know I'm taking a back seat to Rob and Owen for sure. Me and you can fight it out.
I'm convinced all 3 of your daughters are smarter than me. So anyway,
Owen's the smartest one of my four.
See, I'm kind of vibing
the girls
with that.
have you. They've got you and Owen.
No, wait. So everybody's secure enough for you to say that out loud?
Yeah, I think Owen. Don't you think I'm secure enough? People are secure enough for that.
It's not about you. It's
Actually,
whether the rest
so-
of your offspring is.
Travis does not lie. So if he
They
if
get
you
it.
say it, it's for real.
But they're smart in different ways, right? I mean, they have different strengths. So I mean, Owen spends a lot more time like Rob on history, in useless knowledge stuff.
Yeah.
because
esoteric. It's not useless. It's esoteric.
Owen's main
Would
goal in
you
life
stop?
is never to lose a debate. He does not want to lose a debate.
Yeah. So is he well versed? Can he like go different genre, like different groups? Can he can do history? He can do science, math,
Owen?
politics, sports.
Question mark?
Owen.
I don't know. If I feel like I know it, I can go for it. I know some things, but not. No, I can't go all over the place. Like even Rob, most of the time, I just let him talk, and then every 15 minutes,
I just noticed Rob was like really bad with sports. I thought that was weird. I was like, how does that
Actually,
guy not
that's my worst subject of all.
I kind of believe that.
Yeah. Okay. Coffee, bourbon barrel.
No,
So
no, why
Bayside
are we
Coffee
just
does
I'm not,
this. So
I don't even
so you
like
get this
coffee. I'm not Colombian.
So you get this gate. You get
Nobody's
this
ever called me a
Bayside.
bean.
You get this Bayside coffee. You get the bourbon barrel aged coffee beans.
Yeah.
I make a pot of coffee with it. First time I've tried it. I've had tons of their coffee over the years. I get it. I got my big old 32-ounce tumbler. I chug one. I fill it up again. I head into work. I get to work, put on my surgical mask to head into the operating room, exhale, and realize I have the worst bourbon breath on the planet.
Are your coworkers looking at you
And I'm
like,
sitting here going, oh my God, I am working in a hospital and my breath smells like I've been just freaking hammering bourbon all morning.
Did you have coffee or Maker's Mark this morning, Rob?
Exactly. And I'm just like, holy shit, I can never drink this stuff again.
but you're good enough to put a needle in the small of the back and be good.
Yes.
Well, yeah, it was coffee. It wasn't bourbon. It was just bourbon.
How all you
flavored
guys
coffee.
got into like anesthesia.
Oh,
So-
God, I love to stick needles into people.
So as we've worked backwards,
All right,
how
enough on
hard was
coffee
it
and
for
bourbon.
you to be in the middle of recruiting when you're doing radio for Nebraska?
Awful.
But you have other schools that are playing. I mean,
Awful. It was, I mean, full disclosure, right? Like that's probably the reason I'm not doing like local radio right now.
yeah, I was going to ask you, what the hell do you do anymore? It's funny because you went from 1620 to Hurrdat, and I'm like, what's he doing? I go, not on Hurdat anymore. What are you doing?
I mean, like if we back up, like 1620 was unbelievable, right? Heck of a run with Sharpie and Severe and then back to Sharpie. And I felt like I kind of had reached my ceiling. So I just wanted to do something.
Yeah, it's called local radio sucking the life out of you.
So I just wanted to do something different,
Damn,
right?
dude.
And so Hurdat allowed me to do
The stuff.
more, like podcasts. And if I didn't want to talk about, because I like a lot of other things other than sports. And like I'm not Ottoman Empire and you know like the War of 1812
Weak effort.
and
You're pulling out good references, though. You've gone from Genghis Khan to the Ottoman Empire to the War of 1812. I think you're more versed than what you think.
I'm a big Peaky Blinders guy now, so I like.
There we go.
I understood history, but then it got to be it's just overwhelming. So I felt like my niche in like local media was he's kind of balanced and he can talk about a lot of different sports but I'm even keeled, right? So I'm never over the top. So I don't cuss, and I always look at things pretty rationally. But I felt like during the recruiting process and just historic, like just my life. So, my brother is a September birthday. My dad is an October birthday. So typically the fall is tough for me, right? Lost my dad in 2017. Lost my
Dad was
brother.
a good man.
Lost my brother unexpected. My
I
dad
didn't
was
know
my
that.
best friend. I lost my brother unexpectedly, not too far from here, on a wellness check a couple of Christmases ago. And so fall is always tough. Factor that in. their birthdays, like I said, September, October, respectively. My mom and dad's anniversary is December 31st. Found my brother on December 29th. So going into the fall, I have to get my mind in a certain place. I'm coaching. I got X amount of kids that I'm coaching. Kind of my strength as a coach is relationship building. I'm obviously a father and a husband, and I'm a son too, and I'm a brother. So no, stop with the brother references because I know that was coming. I let Rob get away with that. But
he's in this beautiful moment. And
I was really struggling emotionally, So I just felt like I couldn't be that guy that I felt like the public either wanted or
gotta be
needed
on
me
every
to be.
day.
I just couldn't. And normally I can figure it out. Like this isn't the first time, but this time was the hardest, right? A show was named after me, the logo, like it was just a lot. And I'm much more comfortable with being Robin than Batman and letting the Batman happen organically.
Did you get a little help or not?
I did. So that was huge.
I tell you, therapy is a great. I know people struggle with it. Therapy is the greatest thing in the world.
So I'm the worst in America at asking for help. So the two people that I think helped me the most are Dr. Stark and DJ Rezak. Like those are the two guys that, and I felt bad. Like DJ and I had a really in-depth conversation a couple of days ago. And I almost felt like I put too much pressure on him to be my friend, my therapist, like kind of my go-to. And Dr. Stark is going through his own issues. He's getting older. He's got the lawsuit with this. With
Is that still going?
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, which was, I mean, it's sad, and that's something neither here nor there. But I would do that a couple of times a week, and I just felt like, right now I can't function. So it was kind of a panic move. But
Were you having panic attacks or anything like that?
No, but you know what I found myself doing? Like full disclosure, since we're just like
self-medicating.
Yep.
Alcohol, drugs, what?
Alcohol. And it was just too much for me to manage, and so I get started early, 4:30. So sometimes, I'd take whatever was left in my Yeti the night before, I'd take my vitamins with, and I'd get through a day. So let's say you start at 5:15 and I would leave, West Side at 6:15. And then you got to go be a dad and be in your house. And it was just like I really, really struggled. And so, my mom thought I was a little short and Caleb's recruiting process and all the while, like to add, it's not insult to injury, but I'm at all these schools, right? You're at K-State or Wisconsin or Iowa or Kansas and I would see these coaches and they were playing and we were playing and I would see what people would say about the recruiting process and I wanted to like speak on it. But you didn't want to feel like you're putting your kid in harm's way or jeopardizing or coming to his aid. And so the real straw that broke the camel's back was I've done this for 20 years. Since 2004 or 5, whether it's coaching or when I started with 1620 doing the CWS shows. I could always say anything I wanted to about anybody else's kids. I could say, oh man, like, Jeff Tarpinian, he's a great player, or Jake Galusha, or, Noah Fan, or whomever, Xavier Watts. But I found myself, the Rezaks, right? But I found myself kind of afraid to say anything for my own kid. And that was really, really hard for me to go home at night. Like, am I doing him a disservice? Am I selling him short? Am I he's watching me real time, whether it's for Kobe Bretts or Monte or anybody else. He's watching me be all these things to other people. I don't know, but I want to, like, am I being that for you? Like, and then if I am, like, how's my other son? Like, I had 2 boys, 2 girls, right? So it's like, what's Micah seeing? Like, is he gonna be okay with this? And one of my backhanded weaknesses is I'm over analytical. So
I've listened to you for many years. You're right.
So I shut it down. so I completely just shut it down, which is what an empath has a tendency to do.
You know, and let me take a different spin on it. And I don't mean to cut you off, Rob. Is this not only do you got to, do you want to say that about your son or talk about your son, but there's also like a circle of trust in the recruiting place. You don't want to, when you do a visit, coaches don't. They're like, what's he going to go on the radio and talk about? I mean, 100%. So there's a level, and I get it. Don't get me wrong. I would love to do a true documentary or what a true recruiting experience is, but I also understand there's a level of privacy about that. There's a level, and
you're spot on.
Sure that had to weigh on you.
You're spot on. It ate at me. So I'm notoriously a bad sleeper. It just compounded the problem, right? So if I knew that. Let's say, Coach Klanderman at K-State thinks this or said this or is wondering about this versus Coach Tressel at Wisconsin versus, Coach Parker or the DC at Iowa State. Haycock. Great. Like, so... Full disclosure, Iowa State came to Westside. This is early. Coach Haycock was like,
but when you say early, like Caleb's sophomore year early or like early in his senior year?
Early in his senior year, but they had already offered. All right. So they were well in the deal, and he had been to a game, and he was in Coach Lamanji's office, and he's like, hey, man, I just want to know what's going on. Like, we haven't had great success with legacy recruits, and we had bad weather. You were going to come down with Rezak, and we've had guys from 400 miles come. Like, where are you at? And I go, so what are you talking about? Like, that's not my responsibility. Like, these are things that you should be asking Caleb. Like, don't put me in the middle of that.
Peacock was saying that?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I said, the only thing that I can tell you is, don't over or undersell the legacy thing. Like, he's his own guy. It's the same thing I said to Coach Leipold. It's the same thing I said to Parker at Iowa. Like, don't recruit him any differently. And, I mean, full disclosure, I had to have this very same discussion with Coach Rhule.
But you understand why they think that, right?
No.
You don't?
No.
Jesus, I do.
No way. No.
See, I see that.
Because I told you. I've got nothing to gain by BSing you. I told you he's his own guy.
But as a parent.
No.
Okay, dude. So, okay.
No. I'm here for it. Buckle up.
Give him shit. Let's go. Let's roll.
Okay, so so this is what's interesting to me. So, okay, Ryan, my son. Okay.
Yeah, very well. Yeah.
For people listening, my son Ryan played football at Westside.
Yep.
Pretty solid D lineman. He was Cade Haberman's backup for a couple of years. He was
started as a senior, came into his own.
Yeah, so I mean, Cade was a 3-time starter, 3-time All-Stater. He's a kicking ass at Northern Illinois. Very nice bowl game win, by the way, by the Huskies.
Shout out. I got to get back to this. I'm curious to see what this is going to turn into.
Anyway, It was interesting with Ryan going through the same process because there was stuff that was different because Ryan was one of these guys who was this 5'11", 6-foot tall kid. He's a lineman. He's not the 6'5". He's not the 300-pounder. He's not the guy that you look and go like, okay, he meets all of these measurables. But on the flip side, he's got the Zatechka last name. And you got two guys that played at Nebraska, were all conference, all American offensive linemen. You got Isaac, who was an all-state offensive lineman for Elkhorn South, who's playing D1 football. And then here's Ryan, there's this name, and he didn't even decide that he wanted to do the college sports thing. We were probably 2 weeks into his senior season.
Yeah, I was right there.
It was late in the process where he was finally like, okay, yeah, I think I want to do this. And I'm like, holy shit, we're like late September of your senior year in high school. Let's get our ass in gear and do this. I got to be honest with you. For us, it was kind of the opposite. It was this massive positive that he had this cousin that had gone before him the year before that these schools knew.
So let me stop you before I let Travis get into me here a little bit.
I'm not going to get into it. No, I think I just need to clarify what I was saying.
Because here's the deal. So this isn't even about athletics from Damon to Caleb. This is about being a Benning and the city of Omaha with Don Benning and his kids.
Yeah, yes. It's a legacy of a legacy. Maybe more so.
So
no disrespect, but you know what I'm talking about.
100%. Much greater man than I'll ever be. His impact in this city, greater than I'll ever know.
The sad thing is there's a generation now who doesn't know that, and it's pissing me off.
So for me, awesome. I watched my brother go through it. He's a junior. He's Don Benning Jr. And I saw the weight of that. When he stopped wanting to play sports and do his own thing, like I saw what happened in our household, right? Like you want this is the nuts and bolts of what makes this podcast good. So I kind of see where
you're going here. So I thought of this way. This is a good way to look.
So this is my perspective. So I knew that teachers would say to me when I was growing up, hey, does your dad know that you did this, this, and this? And he's assistant superintendent. And I would say, hey, listen, you know what my dad would appreciate is you doing kind of your job. Like, don't put that onus on him. Like, the reason he does what he does in this community for people is to empower other people to be who they are. So just do you. Don't pit that against me. So I fought it forever. Being a Benning. And when I'm raising Caleb...
You had to live up to a higher standard, man.
Yeah, right? So it's not just athletics. It's everything.
Yeah.
So when raising Caleb and as the former Nebraska guy, I never talked about Nebraska. He saw my Orange Bowl trophy in the closet when he was looking for a winter coat. There's nothing about what I do, not the gear, not anything, that I'm cramming Nebraska down his throat. So I can't appreciate when people can't let him be himself, because I went out of my way, almost to my detriment, where it would keep me up at night, Travis, especially when he was hurt last year. And I was like, did I do enough? Did I do enough to push Nebraska? Where I start having these second thoughts. So I would take notes. I talked to Danny Noonan over and over again about Maverick and Alec, and I talked to John, and I talked to just player, everybody that had a son. I would just sit and take notes, which is how Dom and I got close with this whole Dylan recruiting process thing, because I wanted to know, am I doing this right? And now keep in mind, I'm supposed to be the guy that's the authority on this sports landscape, the metro, the state, and I'm struggling internally. So I can't respect that. I can't.
Maybe I heard you wrong, because I guess what I heard was these coaches were asking you, basically, is it worth their time to recruit him?
Yeah.
And the reason I get that question is because you don't get it?
I don't.
Boy, I
don't.
Do you get it, Rob? If a coach would just say, is it worth my time?
Talk to him. Ask him. Talk to him. What took so long?
No,
Right?
I mean,
if he
I
wasn't about
understand
relationships, what took him so
Who
long?
was in first?
So I understand the question.
Who was the first offer?
Yeah.
But I understand the answer too. Here.
I do too. It is that if you're a really good recruiter, you need to build your own relationship
I
and
think
understand it.
Nebraska
Yeah.
was first, Vanderbilt was second, Duke was third.
Okay.
If okay, I'm going to throw you on the spot here.
Go ahead.
If Matt Rhule's not the head coach at Nebraska and the old coaching staff is, does he go to Nebraska?
Probably not.
Okay, that's all we need to know.
And
All
he'll
right.
tell you the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably not.
Which, by the way, Ferris in Iowa.
That's saying that is as close as he was to Chenander, and it wasn't probably going to be enough. He loved Chins.
Okay, that's kind of interesting. That's a whole nother podcast.
But liking a
the
guy's
Iowa
recruiter and how good of a coach somebody is two different things.
No,
So
and
they could
that's
talk
true.
about going to the
That's
grocery
true.
store or shooting hoops or
Yeah.
like it was about things other than just playing
Yeah.
football.
The Iowa thing is interesting to me because I know talking to John and Isaac when Isaac was getting recruited by Iowa and the trip that when they did their official visit to Iowa, John came back and he was just like, oh my gosh, he goes, the way they do things
Rob,
there.
they're unbelievable.
He goes,
I don't
"It's
care what
nuts."
anybody says. They're unbelievable.
No, it is. And that's the thing. Well, and here's the thing.
And they've gotten
I've
younger.
met,
So you
like-
didn't even get to see like Abdul Hodge and those like
Yeah. But
Tyler Barnes,
okay,
they're
but I-
so good at what they do, and you're exclusive. They're not throwing like this blanketed canvas over this.
You know what?
It's a lot like Clanderman at K State.
They're a lot like me.
And Connor Riley.
You know how you just talked about I am who I am?
God, I love Connor.
They
Listen,
they know who they are and they don't give a shit.
Nope.
They don't get they average 230 yards offense a game. That's
he
what we do.
never, ever contemplated whether it was like a doable thing.
Then what was the difference? What made him go to Nebraska?
So I think down the stretch, so probably like in February when Coach, so I think I can tell the truth here, right? I'm going to tell the truth this whole
you
podcast,
just told us
right?
about your
Right.
By the way,
your mental
this is
state. I
this
hope
is
so.
Twitter.
Right, I know.
It's
right, like
Apple
I'll
Pod,
it's
probably
YouTube,
regret
just
that
keep
later.
That in
No,
mind.
you won't, because more people relate to it. I'm going to tell you, I've been through more therapy. I've been locked up in a mental institution for 2 weeks. Don't apologize for it.
Listen, I'm telling you, TJ, I struggled.
Yeah.
So here's the thing, Coach Rhule and I, because everybody think we have this great relationship, and we actually really, really do. Like,
Because you did the Hurrdat interview with him before.
Which was
By
unbelievable.
the way, tell Rule he needs to come hang out in
which
the
was
basement.
unbelievable.
Get him in
like,
the basement.
He
Get him
let
in the
me. He
basement.
let me go there
Get
with
him
him
in the basement.
Basement.
So we're
It's your one job. You have one job when you leave
We're
here.
There's
texting
no
back
gimp.
and we're
Come to the
texting
basement.
back and forth about football during Michigan, Alabama, and Washington, Texas. It's 11:45 at night, and we're just talking football. Doesn't
I
have
love
anything to do
this.
with. He's unbelievable. Like that, but that's just kind of how we are. So he and I kind of, as much as I would call getting into it, we got into it.
You had ruled it?
Oh yeah, like
Over.
so. It's just petty.
That's great, though. I love it.
This is petty.
This is perfect.
So Callahan posted something on a message board,
Sean?
Yep.
Okay.
and it pissed me off to no end.
That's why I stay off message boards. They're pieces.
And I'm much better at it now, but I've met some good people through it, so I now just peruse. I'm not the guy anymore.
I
So
I
refuse
don't
to
even
pay-
know
so
how
I
to
refuse
get
to pay
on a
for
message
message
okay, so
board.
listen. So I'm calmed. So
Sorry about that.
so I kind
you
of
didn't know what you were getting into when you came here. Did
So
you?
I know what's going on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
I know how Nebraska feels. I know how this school feels. But I'm listening to all these other people's opinions, right? Oh, he's being high maintenance, or oh, he's doing this. And I'm like, guys, I'm telling you, like, I've talked to Nebraska 1,000 times. Like, they're cool when he's cool because I know how they think of him. So Coach Rhule and I, there was a deal where Sean posted something on the message boards where, and I don't even, full disclosure, I don't think he meant anything by it. But what he said was, it appears that Benning is a take now. They really want him.
It appears.
I said, when wasn't he a take? Right?
Yeah.
So in the meantime, he, Sean sends me a message. He's like, hey, man, I didn't mean anything by it. I'm not trying to be, a dickhead or whatever. But I
swore. I mean, that's good.
And I'm just saying what he said because I believe I want to make sure he's not unfairly represented.
Okay.
Right. I'm not just going to give. I'm going to give you the real version.
That's fair.
And he's like, hey, it's kind of a feel I got. My bad. And I go, I just talked to these guys. I've been talking to them. Like, why would you say that? And he's like, it's just kind of a feel I got. So immediately, I call Coach Rhule, and I'm like, hey, like if this is how we're doing it, like I'm out. Like we're just done. Like I'm not pulling a power play. I'm not, if he's good enough, he's not, because he didn't even have any junior film. Now this is a real discussion. And this is during the radio show. So I'm texting back and forth. It's 7:20 in the morning. He calls my phone.
Rhule does.
He's not happy. I don't even know what the bleep you're talking about. Like, stop being, can't remember the word. He's, like, just say what you want to say is basically what he said. So on break, he called. So I told my radio partner at the time, I was like, hey, I got to get this call. So I ended up missing 2 segments. Right. So I miss 30 minutes of radio time at Hurrdat. And I'm like, where does this stuff come from? And he's like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't talk to guys like that. I don't know where they get that. That didn't come from any of my guys and this, that, and the other. He's like, if you trust me, trust me. If you don't, you don't. I said, hey, man, like, you can raise your voice and you can get mad. I said, but conversely, I'm going to tell you, like, if you want him, you want him. If you don't, you don't. Right? It's not.
Don't settle is what you're saying.
Right. Because I want to know. It's how I've raised him. It's how he's been raised.
And it's not personal.
So that's what I've been trying to tell you guys.
It's
so
not
this
personal.
whole legacy thing, it's not personal for me.
Yeah.
I want what's best for my kid. People want it to be personal, but I've been conditioned. Like I was raised
It's
well.
not.
That makes sense. But you understand where I was coming from with the coaches going, I don't want to waste time.
It's not personal for me.
Okay.
I want what's best for my kid.
But you understand it is personal to some. It is.
100%.
Yes.
100%. So
absolutely.
I wanted to make sure that he wasn't playing me. Like, are you telling this to these people, but you're telling me this? He's like, look, man, you get your act together. Like, I don't say this, and this. I do what I say. You can do what you will. He goes, I'm getting off the phone. I said, are you mad now? He's like, do you want me to be mad? I was like, I don't know. I said, this is real. I said, I'm just telling you, man, like, don't jerk me around. And he's like, goodbye. So we didn't talk.
And you're doing games on Saturdays, right?
100%.
This is outstanding.
But Travis, this is like in February or March.
Okay.
Somewhere around there.
Okay.
So we're not in season yet. And so I called him back. All right,
After how many days?
Like at the end of the show.
Oh, at the end of the show.
So
okay.
we're talking like an hour or so later.
2. So I'm pissed. Like I got to do this whole thing show. Like I'm mad. Like super pissed. I'm like, look. I said, I get it. Right? No junior film. You guys, he doesn't camp. He's a weird kid. He doesn't open up. Doesn't speak unless spoken to. You feel like I'm putting words in his mouth. I said, you feel like if this is the guy that you don't get, like this is the most egg that's going to be on your face. Like if you don't get the Benning and his dad does I said, but that's my greatest fear too. Like I don't want any of that to be the periphery. If you think he's tops, because, oh man, listen, like he's going to be one of the best players in the state. He's tops in the state. And I said, if you want him, and I'll never forget this. I said, if you want him, go get him. Because in 3 months, he's going to be a different player. He's going to have his adenoids out. He's going to have his shoulder shaved down. Like physically, he's going to be much different than the bad junior tape. Because the junior tape wasn't great. He had like 3 games and he's pretty average, right? I'm on it. Like you can say what you want. He was just okay. Like he was great against Gretna, but he still was not, he wasn't in shape. He wasn't supposed to play all. Like, shoot, he missed 12 weeks, right? So I said, Just do me that favor. Like, don't look out for me. Don't protect me. Don't do anything. Just do what you want to do, and you have to trust me on that. I'll never forget this. So he's like, hey, we good? And I was like, yeah, we're good. After the Bellevue West game in week 3, Coach Cooper sent me a text. He's like, man, this dude's Coach Cooper had just seen him. He's like, man, this dude's unbelievable. He's been the best player on the field, yada, yada, yada. Coach Rhule called, and he says, I just want you to know something. And I said, what's that? He goes, I trusted you when you told me that he was going to be a different player, and when I needed to get involved, and if I wanted him, I want him. I want you to know that, like, where that landed. Like, we want him. I said, hey, I appreciate that. Like, thanks for believing in me. It changed. So our relationship went from, like, really, really good to, like, over the top. So, but we had to, like, kind of go through that little communication
dance.
Because I just, like, I'm not that cool. Like, so, like, with me, just, it's in my, like, I'm kind of soft. Like, it's in my nature. I want to please. I'm the youngest of 5. I'm super insecure. I'm kind of a baby. Like, I want to make it right. Like, I'm not this guy that, like, I'd rather get it right than be right. Like, that's why I take bad calls. I read people's articles of that have written bad things that I don't like, because I always think that I can learn something. So, like, it's not about me. Like, when you've made as many mistakes as I have in my life, whether it's my first marriage or whatever, like, I know I have room to grow. So I'm not there yet. Like, don't assume that I don't need help. I want to be around as many smart people that care about me as I can be around. And if you're in that deal and you can take that on, come on, man, let's hang out. Like, I'm going to pick your brain. Like, I'm not that cool. I'm not. I'm much better by myself than I am with other adults unless I'm all in. The downside to me is I'm all in or I'm all out. There is no middle ground.
It's black and white.
100%.
So
even though my mind lives in gray, because the reason that I didn't stay in administration for the school district is because I can't go by the handbook. I have to go by what's best for this student. So it may change. If Rob's a guy that needs to go to the corner and that hurts his feelings, I'm going to send him to the corner if I can change the behavior, if it's not punitive. But if, let's say, you're a guy that did the exact same thing Rob did, but you need isolation, I may tell you to go outside on the playground. And people may look at that and say, well, why would you let Travis out on the playground when he did the same thing Rob did? And I said, because you know what? I'm going to deter the behavior.
See, that's your dad in you, because at the end of the day,
end of the
day,
you're gonna make me cry.
No, I want you to cry. That's your dad in you, is because you understand. And my wife is a teacher in OPS. And at the end of the day, one size doesn't fit all for these kids. It's absolutely ridiculous how we discipline, and every kid is different. Every athlete is different. You can't treat everyone the same. We all have different personalities.
That's what
we
I
all learn differently.
So TJ, that's what I wanted people to think about recruiting. Just because it didn't happen with Cluster and Keegan, or it did happen with Maverick and Danny, or it didn't with John and Isaac, like, this is not the same. Understand one size doesn't fit all. Don't say legacy. Don't do that. Like, it's different.
I 100% agree with you. So I'm not going to, but I also understand where they're coming from. Like, are we going to invest the time and the resources if we really don't have a chance?
Man, just shoot your shot.
Shoot your shot. What do you got to lose?
Like that's all I ever wanted. Okay. Right? Like, that's all I get that. That's all I ever wanted.
See how we just came to understand one another. See how that's having coffee at the bar.
Yeah, I'm not drinking coffee.
All right, here's my question.
What's up?
When did you look at Caleb and go, "Holy shit, he's the real deal"?
5th grade.
Really?
Yeah. You got to understand. I'm going to say this
because I see a lot of kids who are that like oh my god, like sophomore, junior year in high school. I've looked at kids who are like
So Freund,
all world.
So Freund didn't want to play freshman.
And then like freshman year in college, you're like, yeah, this guy's not ever.
So Freund didn't want to play freshman, right?
And I get that. Yep.
But
that's Freund.
They kind of talked through it, and Caleb wanted to play freshman. All right, didn't bother me, right? I'm like, whatever. Like I just want him to be okay. But he's been a defensive back. He started his first game, Travis, as a corner. 0 games in his career playing corner. And he missed the first 3 games because he had the fracture in his back.
Yeah.
So he started at corner to get him on the field because corner, quote unquote, was easier to learn. 2 games later, they moved one of our players from safety to outside linebacker. We had to move Teddy, and they wanted Caleb to play safety. Caleb has played 0 games at safety. He's played 0 games at wide receiver. He grew up playing Mike linebacker and the occasional running back. I didn't even give him the ball in Little League because I just wanted him to be his own dude. So he would make 20 tackles a game. And, Tyson Terry, Ryan Terry, like these guys would just be like, oh my God, like this kid is really, really good. And I'm like, he never played on grade. So I felt like he had the ability. I just didn't know if he was like mean enough because he doesn't talk. So he didn't talk till he was
I know what you mean about mean enough, though.
That is 100% true.
He didn't talk until he was like 3 years old.
You need to get a crowbar to get a word out.
He didn't talk until he was 3 years old, and so we didn't know if something was wrong with him but he could do all these other things.
So you're probably thinking autistic. I mean, you're probably thinking a lot of different things, right?
Because his movements were off the charts. He could. So I felt like young, he was going to be really, really good, but he always dabbled in basketball. So the thing that people are getting, like the thing that Nebraska's getting, and this is the coach in me, not the dad. You're getting a guy that's never trained for one sport. You're getting a guy
which is why he's a good athlete, by the way.
You're getting a guy that hasn't played the position. He hasn't played any one position for more than 2 years in the last 4 years. So he's a blank canvas. You can do whatever you want to with him. And if he's not good, then he's not good. But he's nowhere near potential. None. So, like, that's what I'm excited about.
I can't remember which game it was, but it was very early in the sophomore season.
Probably Papio South.
It probably was. It was right after he came back and started playing again after the back.
Probably Papio South. We moved him.
Yeah, he was safety.
Yeah, it was
his first game at safety.
He had like 13 tackles, and Frank was like, OMG.
And obviously, I'm watching closely. My son's one of the D linemen on the team.
You were way more So full disclosure, he was way more complimentary than I was.
Well, as a dad, you're like that. Like, I mean, I got to be honest with you. And I feel kind of bad a little bit from an athletic standpoint when you look at any of our kids. So I've got 2 kids one just graduated college as a college athlete. I got a second kid who's a sophomore in college, just got done with their second season as a college athlete. I got a third kid who just had their first recruiting conversation with the coach, high school junior, probably going to be a college athlete. It's not like I'm not around this stuff. And I'm sitting here and I'm looking at Caleb and I'm watching this game. And I remember I knew the whole thing with the back injury. And I knew from a medical standpoint, it's not like I don't know the ups and downs of this and the severity. And there was kind of
the run on those, right?
Yeah.
It's multi-sport athletes were getting those fractures.
Yeah, it was one of the few things, which actually I'm a big proponent of the multi-sport athlete thing. It's one of the very few issues that plague multi-sport athletes. There's not a lot. That's
so you see it. You see that a lot, right? That
exactly.
Yeah.
And it's about the only thing that the multi-sport athletes do get. And so he was coming back from this, and I remember watching this game, and he's playing at a new position. And I knew from talking to Haberman, talking to Freund, the coaches at Omaha Westside at the time, and you see this kid who's moved into that safety position, and he came up on a specific play and just it was a G play. You got a pulling guard, and Caleb came up and just lit up an offensive guard on a pull. Like completely took the lead blocker out of the play. And I don't remember who it was, if it was Wimmer or one of the other guys at outside linebacker who ended up getting the tackle. But he just nuked this offensive guard.
Yeah.
Some kid who outweighed him by 30, 40, 50 pounds. Lit this kid up, and you could hear it. It's like, those pops. They always call it's a pop. Mm-hmm. There was a pop that just everybody heard, and you kind of heard everybody in the stadium do that collectively. And I'm just like, holy shit. That's a ball player right there. And all of a sudden I was just like, that's the kind of guy who plays on Saturdays in college and Sundays in the NFL.
So going back to Iowa.
Yeah. And it was Caleb.
So
anyway, but yeah, it's
so Parker was the first coach to tell him, your sophomore film is enough.
Yes.
They didn't worry about that he didn't have junior
You're talking
film.
about Phil Parker, who's a defensive coordinator at Iowa.
I saw that one.
So that right away was what got Iowa in the deal.
There was that one play.
He said, and it worked for Elko at Duke. He said the same thing. He goes, your sophomore tape. And so why he took a while to commit as a senior is because his junior film, what limited he had, wasn't like he was as a sophomore.
But he didn't have a lot of junior film.
He barely have any, and he didn't like it.
Dude, he broke his collarbone and was out for
So he just
9
wanted
games.
to prove it to himself. That's it.
Yeah, the junior year thing, I mean, you toss that out. Okay, so here's the thing. His junior film, it's interesting to me because I look at that and, a lot of guys. So you take Zane Flores, the quarterback at Gretna. Yeah, I think a lot of people have anointed him as the greatest quarterback in Nebraska high school history. He's really, really, really good. I have a lot of respect for the Flores family, what they've done athletically, which, by the way, it's the nicest human beings you'll ever meet.
Yeah, Mel, he's 100%.
Just great 100%. People. There were a few people that had as good of training and polish at the quarterback position from a high school quarterback standpoint as Zane Flores. He was one of those guys where you'd watch him drop back and make those reads, and you could follow his head.
Unbelievable.
You could see what he was looking at and understand what he was doing and what he was going through, going through those progressions. And I'm like, oh my God, here's a guy who, this is a kid who's operating as like a college
and he was a winner. He reminded me a ton of Easton Stick.
Well, and that's the other thing about him is he was a guy. The two Bellevue West games that Gretna played that year, his senior year, both of those comeback wins were just, oh my God, here's a guy coming from behind, pressure on the line. Yeah. I had a lot of respect for what Flores did. It's just he wasn't one of these guys who was a.
So what was it about the junior film you were gonna?
The fact that we went to that state title game, and you've got Caleb who hasn't played a football game in fucking 10 weeks.
12.
Thank you. By the way,
10 games, 12 weeks.
Sorry, math is hard for me.
Yeah, right.
Counting's tough.
10 games, 12 weeks.
Anyway, so you've got this kid who hasn't played he hasn't played football in 4 months.
Yeah. And didn't play any offense. But he did in that game.
And he did, but he comes out. It's really, really interesting because it's easy to find film. Go look at the first interception he has in that game. Yeah. And it's interesting because you see Caleb drop back and he starts moving to the position that he's supposed to move to.
But he saw,
and
we were in two-man.
And he's looking at Flores' eyes. He's looking at Flores. Yeah. He's moving to where he's supposed to go from a positional standpoint, from a, he's going to where he's supposed to go, and he fucking stops. And you see him do this, the ball's not going there.
Yep.
And he makes this freaking beeline over to where he knows the ball's going to be, and gets that first interception.
We're in two-man. He's supposed to hold the hash, and he picked that off on the sidelines.
And he was so, and I'm watching that going like, here is a guy who is so ungodly, completely out of position, but he's out of position because he knew
instincts.
He knew better than anybody else what was going on, and he read the eyes of arguably. I mean, I got to be honest with you. I think Flores was probably the best coached and best trained high school quarterback I've seen
100%.
in the last 30 years 100%. Of Nebraska high school
100%. Zero
like if you
doubt
look at like his off-season coaching, club coaching, Warren Academy, everything else, nobody has had better coaching than Zane Flores.
Coach Kale, the Gretna's coach. And we have a pretty good relationship.
Dude, a great guy, by the way.
He's amazing.
He's a great guy.
I love the whole staff. And
I'm looking at it going like...
He goes, yeah, Caleb got us.
And I'm just like, Caleb, he should have had 3 in that game.
Oh, the one he dropped, yeah.
Yeah, I guarantee you that still pisses Caleb off.
It makes me mad.
But it's one of those things I'm looking at and I'm just like... But it goes back to his sophomore year. His sophomore year, I remember watching him at that safety position come up and just nuke that offensive guard. And all I could think was, here's a guy who's willing to do whatever it takes to make a play in any given situation. There's a college football player right there. Done deal.
You went up to the. When did he tell you it was Nebraska, and what was the final thing that put him on the edge?
So it was the craziest thing ever. He's really close to my wife, and I mean, thank goodness, because it's not always like that the second time around. But I mean, she was heavily involved in the formative years when he was young, and so they kind of came up with this scheme where he had gotten a T-shirt, and so he didn't drop the video until like Friday night. On a Friday night at 7:00, right, in typical Caleb fashion.
Which media, by the way, is like when you're
that's a news dump, right?
If
like
you
who's doing
want something out there, you don't do it on a Friday night.
So a couple of weeks before that, he had given me a T-shirt, and he had just learned to kind of do his own laundry. I know this is crazy for a 17-year-old, but like wash it, the little pebble things you put in, the what's the little puffy plastic things, the drop-ins.
Little pods.
Don't eat them.
Don't eat them, kids.
The right cycle, how to fold, right? So he gives me this folded T-shirt, and he goes, "Here, Dad, I wanted you to have this," and I'm like, you don't even know how to fold clothes. Like, what do I want to... This is exactly what I said in the kitchen. I said, you don't even know how to fold clothes. Like, why are you giving me this T-shirt? And he goes, no, you just got to open it up. And I opened it up, and it was a Nebraska T-shirt. And on the shoulder, it said, Caleb Benning, #GBR. He goes, I wanted you to have the first signed one. And I literally dropped to my knees. Like, I was pretty emotional.
If you had to rank them, because you mentioned Duke, you mentioned K-State, you mentioned Iowa State, you mentioned Iowa. If he doesn't go to Nebraska, which he is, what recruiting experience did you like the best?
So probably 1A and 1A after Nebraska were Iowa and K-State. I was, for the longest, I was probably the most afraid of Wisconsin because Tressel, they did such a good job. I just felt like the thing that was working against Wisconsin was the campus was too big.
It's a big school. People don't realize how big Wisconsin
is. It's a whole, I mean, it's legitimately a whole city.
Yeah.
I mean, meanwhile, Manhattan is the size of Grand Island.
Yeah.
Right? So I would rank It was probably Iowa 1 and K-State 1A, or he may flip-flop those.
How much has recruiting changed since you were recruited to
100? Well, it's done on 180. So the thing that I really liked with these guys, because you know who did a really, really good job? They tapped out early because I don't think they thought they had a chance. Like Coach Leipold was unbelievable.
I love Lance, and we're trying to get Lance. I've known Lance since 1994, and I'm trying to get him up here.
They were so good at what they did. They probably kept in contact. Them in Minnesota were probably the most steady, but they didn't hang in there the longest. But the thing that I like about recruiting now is it's very customized. It's not, well, because this was good with Rob, we'll do this with Damon. They're much better at understanding
the individual,
the household dynamics.
Okay, so they do
kids'
tailor
personality.
it to the individual.
Yeah,
more
100%. And that was the difference in Nebraska. When Coop and Rhule, like, and I remember Rhule said this. He's like, all right, you want me effing involved? Like, I'll get involved. He goes, I'm the closer. You want me involved? I'll get it. I said, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just saying, like, most people are using their coordinators or their head coach, right? Like, so I need Coop. I need you and Coop.
Can I?
And he believe me, that this dude answered the dinner bill, and then I was like, fudge.
Can I to interrupt here a little bit?
You're not interrupting. You're just interjecting.
I get that. So go back to your
now
recruiting.
You know why I asked for 2 hours,
I
right?
like your style.
Go back to your recruiting at Nebraska when you were coming out of high school.
Yeah.
Did you feel it was like I don't know if generic's the right word.
It's very generic.
Okay.
Very,
so I'm
very.
not wrong when I say that.
No. It was very.
Because I guarantee you that, like, you got the same recruiting that Calvin Jones got.
Yeah. It was
that Clinton got.
It was very
that
generic.
I got. That Zach got.
The only difference is they dangled the dual sport, the 2-sport thing, which never happened because I had no idea that Coach Sanders and Coach Osborne didn't get along at the time. So
well, after Zach beat the shit out of the
you
baseball
guys
team.
did that. Like,
I was not there at the time.
You guys, you guys did that.
Raymakers kicked in the door. No, not Raymakers. That was Ray Riffenrath. Ray kicked in the door.
And I just thought I was going to play 2 sports.
I keep in touch with Ray on social media. I apologize for outing him right there.
Yeah, but I think it was
in the media.
very.
It's real.
Is Caleb going to run track?
No. So I think the only other
I'm going on somewhere else.
The only other thing he would like to do is play.
He just deflected that.
Is play intramural basketball. That's it.
So do you know what was weird? Is I remember.
And notice I said intramural. We're not pulling any Davisons or
when you
any
and
other
I were down
2-sport
there,
guys.
Yeah, but Hutchmacher he's a real deal at wrestling.
Yeah, but every year.
Dude, how about that? It's pretty impressive.
Okay. Screw everything else. I'm a wrestling guy.
Can I ask you something real quick? Because I do want to eat with my family.
Yeah.
So are you saying we got to get you out of here?
So listen.
At some point.
You understand why this is a fun podcast,
Me too, because my daughter's going back to like Florida tomorrow.
Because, I mean, full disclosure, Travis did all of this. Like, I'm closer to you, and TJ's the one that got it done. Which is weird.
What's funny, we always joke how Husker fans hate me, but former players like me.
Like you got and you know so I gotta give him a little compliment. You know the cool
thing? Realize we've had like 3 tangents here, and all 3 tangents have come from you.
The cool thing
but all of it's being blamed on me.
You left me very little wiggle room. You made it seem like it was I had a choice. But you were still doing the dictating.
Yeah, you're like, here's the deal. We want you on, but you're going to come on to this.
So I said, hey, the games are this and the game's that. And he's like, hey, he's like 4:00? Okay, so at 4, this is my, like, you just did it in a way where I was like, I guess I'm in. But
Travis, he's a manipulator.
So if Nash is good, if he is an all-conference caliber D lineman,
I think he's a better wrestler than he is a D lineman.
So you know what's funny? What
100%.
He'll tell you? No, you guys know what he'll tell you. He thinks his ceiling is higher in football, which is why he didn't wrestle. But listen, let me ask you guys something. If he's really, really, really good, all-conference caliber at 335,
yeah,
and he's at 287 yesterday,
yeah.
What do you play him at along the D line next year?
315, 320.
Because didn't you feel like Nebraska was the last 4 or 5 years was too big up front?
Okay, so here's my thing. It's not a size thing.
Sure, it is.
It's a technique thing.
No.
Fucking yeah, bullshit, dude.
Well, you got to be able to play at angles.
That's a technique thing.
No, it's not.
It's a technique thing.
So
there's a technical skill standpoint. So when I look
listen
at
to what I'm
offensive
telling
line,
you.
when
So
I look
you
at
think
D-line,
Jason Peter at 285 playing in the 4-3 was technically, it was a technical thing versus Nash being really, really good at the point of
okay,
attack.
JP was like almost 300. He was not 285.
If you ask him today, he was much closer to
He
285
can't
than
remember.
300.
He's full of shit. Actually,
why you guys
JP's
so hard?
JP's
That's my
smart.
guy, man.
Dude, JP's smarter.
Dude,
than
he
hell.
helps me out too.
I didn't say that.
okay.
I had a little fun there, but you know what I'm talking
I love
about.
JP. Okay, so here's my thing.
He's not. Nash isn't playing at 320 next year.
No, that I agree with. Here's
He said
the other
315.
thing too. I'm a monster Terrence Knighton fan.
He's unreal.
The dude is so freaking
So can I
good at
tell
what
you
he does.
a quick funny story? In their coaches conference last year, his session was the only one that I doubled up on, and he's D line. Now I know I'm our coordinator at Westside, so I like defense, but I stayed with the D line because let me tell you his gift. He knows the defense in its totality. He knows run fits. He knows how the secondary plays. He knows how his D line has to play for the second level. And he's an unbelievable communicator. He's such a good person. Like,
And see, so that's my problem.
that's
here
a
is
great
that-
call on T Knighton. He is unbelievable.
Is that with so Knighton? So we do T-shirts for the show.
Yeah.
So you can go to Ray Gun T-shirt. One of our T-shirts that we put out this year was Night and Day Difference.
Spelled
Like
N-I-
spelled
or
Knighton,
K-N-I.
He's
like
good.
Terrence
He's
Knighton.
Good. He's really good.
He is so freaking good.
He
So
is.
I'm a huge fan. Anyway, so I look at all of those guys. I look at Ty Robinson. I look at Hutmacher. I look at those guys, and I'm like, it's all Terrence. It's that.
Well,
that is
Corey
coaching.
Campbell too, right? Because
And
he's got their
yeah.
bodies in such a way where they can now play at 45s.
I get it, and I totally get that. Like,
I mean, what
which
if you
honestly,
could, what if you
I'm a
could
big
like
Campbell fan.
What
as
if
well,
you
too.
could pen and pull, and then get out and like base block equally as well at 3 whatever? Like
Well,
that's not easy.
okay,
There's
so
a
that's
reason why
what
people
made
either
us-
zone
Which honestly,
or they
see, that's what made us good at what we did, and the fact that you had about a 3 to 4 year span where every year 3 out of the 5 offensive linemen at Nebraska made it to the NFL.
Yeah.
Is because we could do all of that.
But let me
stuff.
ask you something. Full disclosure, if you're being honest. Would you be too big to play offensive line in 2024?
At what weight? Give me a.
What were you playing at 3?
I played at 325, 330.
Would you be too big now?
No.
Yes.
No.
Rob,
I could fucking move.
you have 240-pound edge rushers, though.
I ran a 4.
I'm not saying you're not athletic.
I ran like about a 4.7.
Like Leonard Davis couldn't play now from
Yeah.
Texas. Like first round pick, he couldn't play in the league now.
Oh shit. Okay. There's
no way.
There's an adaptability.
Did you watch Proctor at Bama?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would lose 10.
Too big.
Here's the deal. I would lose
It wasn't
10
his youth. He's just too big.
I would lose 10 pounds and I'd
He's a big
block
boy.
that. I'd block his ass.
We
Here's
saw
the
him on
thing.
his visit.
Okay.
We were like, oh my God,
Here's
this
the
guy's
thing.
still in high school.
Okay, Damon.
He was a monster.
Redshirt freshman year, I got my ass kicked by Rusty Medeiros at Miami.
Yeah. Oh God, was he mean?
He was like 6'4", 245.
Dude, I think he whipped our tail with like chewing his mouth. Like
He got
he was
5 sacks in one
he
game.
was a bad
He got
boy.
2 against me, 2 against Borboom, 1 against Eric Weger.
R.I.P. Rob Borboom, boy, Brian.
God bless him.
man. Anyway, okay,
But
go.
anyway, my point is that okay? Well, shit. Where were we
Size.
started?
Size.
Okay, Hutmacher. Let's get back to that.
315.
I truly,
He won't be 315. Watch. Dude, you watch him yesterday? Man?
He's a beast.
He's a freaking cat.
Here's
He's not even in shape yet. Like, I think Robin, those guys, like, he's not even in shape.
Will the Vantage Center be sold out on Friday for the Iowa match?
Yes, 100%.
I'm telling you, there is no better live event than live wrestling.
So can I just tell you?
Oh my God, it's so good.
I'm all in. So I remember when my dad and I went to. So the best event, and you guys have some good ones in Iowa City.
You think?
Wrestling is by far and away the best.
We have some good ones. We have some good ones.
Okay, so let's do.
sport.
You know how people like to make fun of Iowa because of national titles in football? Go look at the trophy case.
Dude.
I'm gonna piss a
but
few
I mean, you do
wrestling
some
people
sporting
off
events
here.
well.
And is AJ Ferrari going to be wrestling for Iowa at that point?
Wrestling is
Oh
the
my God,
best,
he's a fucking
best
douche.
produced product you have on that campus.
Douche, yes. But you know what's unique about wrestling?
People
Who
will
gives a shit?
want to see
It's an
him.
individual sport with a team aspect.
Right.
Does he go to Iowa?
He's got to make up his mind here pretty soon because all three brothers may end up there. And that
Two are there now.
Think about that.
Yeah, that lineage
Lineage would probably be only surpassed.
He's a
by,
total douchebag, but you can be a douchebag in wrestling. And when he got in a fight the other day, you know what? Have you ever been to a wrestling room? You think that happens all
Have you ever been around like
time.
Lenny Pinto? Like they have kind of some like
I got
Pinto's
two
nuts.
wrestlers in the
Wrestlers
family.
would be great for a football team.
Pinto is like I
Here's
don't know
the
if we
thing.
could like hang out. Like he's. Those
I got
guys
two.
need a
Like
governor.
two of my three kids are wrestlers, and the one kid who didn't wrestle would have been the best wrestler out of all three.
Hey, we got to get to some questions because we got some questions coming in. But I didn't want to
fudge.
say that. Well, because I want to be respectful of your time too.
Well, we're already 2 hours in.
Well, I say here now. Well, not quite.
All
We're
right.
an hour
Or as I
36.
like to call it, a normal.
This just
a
means you
normal
have to come back.
podcast.
Would you come back? Is this a good enough podcast to come back on?
100%. 100%.
Hey, real quick, Fred is your guy when you want to bet. Now, get it the no sweat first bet bonus when you with a qualifying bet of $20 or more will be matched with a Fred bet up to $105. If it loses, just use the promo code RUSH. Basketball season is back and better than ever with BetFred's new Trade Day promo. Every week, one lucky Wednesday game will be selected as the Trade Day game of the week, where you could get a Fred bet on every three-pointer made by the top scorer. Terms and conditions do apply. Must be 21 plus. Wagers only accepted in the states where BetFred does business, and you can find those at BetFredSports.com. If you do have a gambling problem, call 1-800-BETS-OFF. Connor Orr is an NIL expert and a registered sports agent. Connor is also focused on corporate and personal injury litigation in both Nebraska and Iowa. He can work with you on your business planning, estate planning, and real estate transactions. Call Connor today. He's going to be at the podcast here in the next couple of weeks. We need to talk NIL. 402-408-6488 or visit Orr and Horrigan website. Husker Hounds Christmas blowout sales going on right now. We've been talking to Scotty the last couple of weeks. Select items of sweatshirts, hoodies, glassware, and volleyball gear up to 50% off. Get the new spring apparel, which will be coming in February. 2024 will be Husker Hounds' 29th year in business. 2 locations in the Omaha area, the Superstore at 84th and Center, and out west at 171st and Lakeside
Right here.
Hills Plaza. That's right. That's it. And our friends at Centris Federal Credit Union are 128,000 members strong. They have 15 locations in Nebraska and Iowa, and 2024 is their 90th year of serving members and their banking needs. Find out more at centrisfcu.org, federally insured NCUA. All right, we got some questions that came in through email and through Twitter. Owen, what's our questions there, buddy?
The first question comes from Jeff Gambino. You see him on Twitter quite a bit. Number one question here. Thoughts on getting a big-time O-line from transfer portal, especially left tackle with Teddy's history of injuries? What happens if he's out again? Will it be a freshman? That's the first question.
That's going to be a freshman. I don't think they're going to get a big-time O-line portal guy this year.
Okay, O-line portal guys. I mean, talk about a rarity.
Yep.
It is so hard to
You're
get a
right.
good portal guy through on the O-line.
Unless you're Colorado, because they actually think that they just got to 10 wins all of a sudden.
Well, that's every year for the last 18 months. Sorry, that was super bad math right there.
Caught himself real time, though.
Which I love Teddy. I would love to see Teddy fully healed up, fully healthy. Let's see what he can do. The last 2 years have been rough.
I'm with you.
It's been rough.
I'm a big TP fan, though.
I love Teddy because, okay, number one, nicest human being on the planet.
Yep, great guy.
Great guy. amazing athlete.
Can't you hear the fan base though? Doesn't make him lie.
I get it. Get him healthy. Let's see what
even you know the fan base.
it's just let's get him healthy and see what he can do. After that, there you go. But I mean, from a portal standpoint, God,
It's not happening.
O-line is one of the few areas where it's not like you, dude. Everybody like portal quarterbacks, dime a dozen.
I know.
Wide receivers, running backs,
Well,
DBs.
Nebraska just got a running back
linebackers,
and got a wide receiver.
edge
Yeah,
guys.
did you see them roll out the red
guys.
carpet?
I don't get that. I don't get that. I really don't. The kid from Oregon, he barely played.
Dowdell?
Kid from Texas, injured a lot. I mean, you can be happy about it, but until you play, I don't care.
Well, and that's the thing is that also, like, I've been kind of on the whole portal thing. Oh my gosh, we just got a 5-star kid from Alabama. I'm like, okay, hold on. He was 5 stars 3 years ago. There's a reason
He's
he
in the
never
portal.
played
He's
at
portal.
Alabama. There's a reason he never played at Ohio State, and he's in the portal now. But anyway,
God, you guys are doing work.
O-line.
That's 8 and 10% beer.
Jeez.
We're fucked
I'm a
up.
little disappointed that
Jeez, what are you disappointed in?
That he hasn't gotten to the next
that was
question.
4-packs, dude.
You guys are getting it in.
Weak effort. We got to step this shit up.
Blame my son. He's the one who went.
Owen's outside of me is the only sober one in this room, unless he dabbled behind the curtain.
It's dry January for him.
Oh, nice.
Weak effort. Anyway, quitter.
Dude, rehab, it's for quitters. Wow.
Anyway, I will go. I will die on the hill that, like, when it comes to portal, O-line is the hardest position to get solid guys at in the portal.
I agree.
They stay where they're at, or they're going to go to a surefire national title.
I agree.
Those FCS guys, they're going to go to Alabama.
By the way,
They're gonna go to
South Dakota
Georgia.
State beat Montana today.
They're so good up front.
Oh my God!
I
that
Big
was,
SDSU fan, right?
Yes.
that was a tough one to
Yes.
watch. I got to be honest with you because I'm a big.
I know, with Chris Walker and Forbes,
Dude,
and I know.
I love FCS. I love D2.
Me too.
That was tough to watch because that was a tough game.
I
You know,
slowly watched SDSU take
they are
what NDSU
so
used to do
good.
to them,
Yeah.
and like they stop
in
the run and
which-
they run. They're so good up front.
Which, when you said what SDSU used to do to them,
NDSU.
NDSU.
NDSU,
Yeah.
Have another beer.
I should have another beer.
No, we shouldn't. No.
My nephew's there. I feel bad now. That was 2 years ago.
I know.
We're talking about a 2-year span.
I know.
Where South Dakota State has turned into basically.
They're so
Oh my
good
God,
along
they're
the
so
D line.
good.
They just it led the nation stopping the run 2 years in a row. Like, you just
Yeah.
can't move the ball.
Yeah, they were so
I said
good
this on
today.
Twitter. You know, AJ Forbes is going to play. He's going to get paid to play, and
Yeah.
his O line for Montana is over. His O
Which,
line was
by the way,
overwhelmed.
so you got Chris Walker, you got AJ Forbes, Lincoln East, Bellevue West.
Mm-hmm. Genatone, don't forget North Platte. Oh, he's just playing special teams, but
I get. Well, yeah, I want to see Genatone and Lincoln bad.
me too.
That
The
being
numbers are
said,
thin.
actually, I would like to see Genatone pull the whole Hutmacher thing
And Russell.
and Russell too.
Hey, do you remember him against Cole in state?
Oh, only a little bit.
Haberman,
oh my God.
the younger Cade's little brother,
Oh my God!
and
Talk about battles.
Genatone like took his warm up off, and I was like, this guy's
Oh,
a
it's like
junior,
you
he's got
didn't even
another
be
year.
okay.
And he
Trev's
had just
the
got here, so
mentality
nobody
sign
really
back here.
knew. Like I was like,
You just needed to look at a picture of Vince Genatone. Your testosterone levels would triple.
and Cole was my guy too. I was
Yeah.
like, that's how I knew. I was like, yeah, okay, Cole, you're tough. Like, you're overmatched, but you hung in there. Like, yeah, Genatone was a monster.
But no, it's one of those things where I look
good,
at
good
that.
to
and
see
I'm
you let Travis get to only one question.
AJ Forbes should have been
Is this what you deal
Nebraska
with all the
center the
time?
last 2 years. Chris Walker should have been Nebraska starting left tackle the last 2 years.
That's hard to say, but because I didn't see his
like his body changed, but I know he kicked our tail in high school. Ooh,
Yes.
Chris Walker was.
I saw it.
He's a bad.
Lincoln East, baby. Spartans. I'm a Spartan.
Remember how they used to pull him and they would run like QB sweep?
Yeah.
With Walter's older brother.
Oh my God, it was
And
brutal.
Little Makovica. I was like, ooh.
Brutal.
Is there a little Makovic coming
Love
up?
Yeah.
it.
So it was Joel and Jeff's nephew.
Yeah.
So it was their sister's son.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Oh, another question?
Okay, let's see. This one, let's go with why do you think? Oh, this one comes from Jim. By the way, why do you think Tony White has only brought in one Stephon Thompson of his former Syracuse players over the last 2 off seasons from the portal? What would you like to see? What would you like to see Emmett Johnson do better next year?
The first one is, I think, so for T. White, remember, he's the coach that Babers let say goodbye to his team. So even though he took the job at Nebraska, Babers brought him back in to say, hey, listen, I'm going to give you the opportunity to say goodbye to your guys, whatever. Been through them through COVID. So I say that because he's well respected in the program. He was a Babers guy, and I know they've since changed coaches, but it's still Tony White's personality. I don't think he wanted to pillage Syracuse for the sake of coming to Nebraska.
And
I
maybe
think,
Syracuse players aren't good enough to play at Nebraska.
well, that's the kind of the obvious, but yes.
Yeah, I mean, let's just.
So that defense
wasn't gonna say that,
2 years ago was top 20 against the run.
It
So they got
was.
some fellas.
It was.
They had a couple of all conference guys. I think it's more out of respect
The
than
ACC
it is.
sucks.
I know, right?
It does not suck.
I think it's
Dude.
more out of respect. And then what I
Dude.
want to see from Emmett is he's a little undersized, right? He's kind of
I'll give you that on him.
he's a 15 to 18 touch guy. So he's got to mature a little bit. But I think he'll be fine. I actually think he's better than people give him credit for.
All right, one more. We got because Damon's got to get out of here. I told him 2 hours. We're at 146. We could go 3, but we won't.
And I
Oh my
will
God,
come
we
back.
could do like a couple of 3 hours.
we could bring you
haven't
back.
even
Would you
touched
come
on the
back?
things.
with this?
Yeah,
Okay.
whenever this is good. You guys are good.
Have you told stories here that you haven't told before?
A couple.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't wait to see how this plays out.
One more.
We'll do this last question. This is kind of a fun one. This one's from David, and I'm going to put a little caveat on this, and I'm going to keep it just to beer. But if you have an exceptional liquor one, but what is the highest alcohol content by volume that you have drank?
Oh boy.
Like
You're
for
talking
a beer?
Yeah. I think Loose Morals for me, that was about 14%.
Yeah, I got to ask. So, our guy, Jason Werner.
Yeah.
So, Jason, Syracuse, Nebraska guy, lives in Pennsylvania
cooler.
now. So,
Great state. They got the Steelers.
okay, hey, do you remember Shark, Tyler Razan?
Oh yeah.
So
do you know
Shark-
he just sent me a Ralston hoodie?
Nice.
I like TZ.
Good dude.
Great dude.
Anyway, so one of his high school classmates is a buddy of mine who is a craft beer
Aficionado.
junkie, hardcore. So he every year he'll bring out he does like a couple of trips out to visit family or married a Pennsylvania gal, lives out there now.
Stillers.
There you go. Love them. Great helmets, best ever.
I'm pretty sure the Eagles got beat tonight.
Black and gold.
They it is really. It's kind of hard to complain. I got to be honest with you. Okay, from a family standpoint, from a family ownership, it's hard to complain about the Steelers. Anyway, so
Damon's on the phone texting, I'm going to be at dinner, I swear to God.
So Jason and I, we trade, we give each other beer. So he sends us insane amounts of beer.
If you only
He
knew how
will
much beer
ship-
was delivered to my office.
He will ship beer out to us we're talking like $200 shipping charges worth of beer. It's insane. Anyway, so he ships us out
He's
with a
not
bunch
kidding.
of beer.
At a pound?
I
Dude, it's
I posted on Twitter. We're drinking it on the podcast. All this stuff.
Isn't it funny that he called the beer Loose Morals?
No, that was
a
actually the name
confusion.
of it.
Dude, if you go listen to our Loose Morals podcast, This was, what, 4 or 5 years ago?
Yeah, it was a while ago.
We got fucked up.
It was Benson. It was Benson Brewery.
No, it was Infusion.
It was Infusion.
Infusion.
Okay, so Infusion Brewery, they had
Right next to
beer,
Rob,
they
right
had a
next to it.
beer
Right next to Bear Chin.
called Loose Morals, and it was like 14% alcohol by volume.
And we drank like a half gallon. We were messed.
So what do they call those growlers?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they provided us a growler.
So the last beer
So-
that I had out of a growler came from Infusion. It was on Thanksgiving. Creed had just come out. I went to go watch Creed. It was snowing.
Wait,
and
when was this?
it's whenever Creed came out. So 5 years ago, maybe?
Wait, hold on. Creed?
Creed. Like the original, like Apollo's Son with Michael B. Jordan.
Oh, the
I thought you were talking
movie,
about the
not-
musical group. I'm
I'm
like,
thinking the musical
Art, what do you
group.
think? Art's wide open.
I'm like, dude,
just heard the
that
news
was
today.
that was like 23 years ago,
so
buddy.
my
Saw
own
him
prison.
live in Lincoln.
So Owen, I'm a big my own prison guy. But so we stopped at Infusion just because we wanted to go out, and they put vanilla. This is when vanilla
Vanilla
bean
bean.
Vanilla
first
bean
kind of
porter.
hit.
and I don't even like vanilla bean.
Not
I
at
don't
all.
like. So all I said,
I walk into a beer place and I was like, I don't like beer.
they're like, "Oh, well, what do you drink?" It's like, "Oh, anything that doesn't taste like beer." And they're like, "Oh, how about vanilla?" So I was like, "Okay." So by the time like I'd gotten ready for bed, the growler was gone of vanilla bean, and that's just how I knew, like, okay, different beer hits differently, because I always wondered how people could sit around and drink like 8, 10, 12. Like we used to watch Ogard and Dishman and those guys. Just they would drink beers before they got them cold.
If I give him Coors Light here, he thinks it's water. He'll drink a 12
See,
pack
that's
of
what I'm
Coors Light.
saying.
That's
Dude,
Gatorade
That's what
for
I'm
me.
saying. I
That's
was like,
Gatorade.
so how do you just sit around and drink 144 ounces and feel like, oh, I'm
Nothing to
good? Like
him.
you feel like sluggish, right?
You know,
That was
of
Gatorade
the eight-
That
for
fusion, I was
Ogard.
like, ooh, this kind of
If
this
you
hit
notice,
different.
I've had 3 and I'm milking them. He drinks them all very.
I'm listening to his speech.
It's gotten a little slower.
And it's a little slurred. And my favorite is, I'm a big body language guy, so I'm watching TJ listen to you, and he's like, he's waiting for you to get it out. It's like, it's great.
Okay. So
Here we
did this.
go.
So Travis and I did this podcast, and Infusion was one of our sponsors at the time.
Yeah.
So we had this growler. It was literally called Loose Morals.
No, I get it. I'm telling you, like,
And it was like,
if there was
what,
like an
14
apocalypse
yeah.
and I had to get dropped off in like one area of the city and function,
Yeah.
I'm going to Benson.
Oh, right there.
I
with
could get
ya.
my thrift clothes. They got a couple of great.
Get your free health care.
They got a couple of great
music.
restaurants. One World's right there. There's a bakery on the corner. It's got the most eclectic people.
It's-
And I
you
know
got
people may
everything.
take like Midtown or Blackstone or something.
got everything.
You called me a bit. Technically, I'm a Bensoner. You know that, right?
I'm
Yeah.
going to the Benson area. Like
It's
they got
anyway.
everything you need.
Anyway, the Loose Morals.
Holy
It was
smokes.
like
Spit it
14.
out, Jim.
It was like 14% alcohol by volume. And I got to be honest with you, we did like an hour and a half podcast.
I think you slept in the basement for a little bit.
I got a
I
question.
don't
Okay.
remember 2/3 of the podcast.
See, I think so. Blood alcohol level is relative to your weight, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because when I look at you, you're too big to be buzzed off of
Dude,
this
these are
juice.
10%.
He's 270 pounds.
Yeah, that's probably about right.
Like you should be able to have 30.
No.
That's not Coors Light.
That's not Coors Light. Coors
You
Light.
not
drink
Busch
all
Light.
the time.
Like I'm looking at this going like, okay, the pumpkin barrel
See,
ale.
when this is over,
is
you're going to leave right away.
10%.
He's going to stay and have dinner with us.
Actually, no, we're going to go do Indian
So he
food
did.
tonight.
He did send me a message too. He goes, "I'll be drunk."
Travis was on that. You were on the same line. You were
See,
on the same text
is
thread.
this the most odd podcast you've ever done?
Yeah, never. I like this is
Yeah.
a first.
No, but I
I'm
mean
floored.
But that was
But
the
this is the way
great
it
thing
is.
about that was
I
the-
kind of like it though. It's
Like,
I
kind of
kinda-
like it?
Yeah, I I
Like,
definitely
This is the
do
most you've been yourself probably ever on air.
pretty natural. Like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
okay. Like I'm cool. The whole
And it's all
basement,
due to
it's
loose morals.
homie. No, you are loose morals.
You know,
You're
that is-
nuts.
Rob's loose. He doesn't have loose morals. I have loose morals.
So the thing about
You
this
don't
guy
have
is
loose morals. You just don't care about people.
I don't. Not at all. Not at
Is
fucking
that
all.
Owen back there laughing? His
Funny as I
own son
say
is like
that.
laughing back there.
Owen's back there
he must
laughing
have
his
scored
ass
points
off.
earlier by saying OJ was the smartest, so he could laugh and say that he has no morals.
Dude, I just said Owen doesn't. I just said Travis doesn't care about people,
And
the
his
first
son
thing
laughed.
I hear is Owen bursting out laughing.
See, that's that authenticity. Unless
Yeah,
people
see?
know what they're getting.
See? And that's what I like. And Damon, you have successfully been the longest podcast we've ever done on the Doctor
Oh, well,
Podcast.
anytime you guys want.
Seriously, I think we need to have you back before the season. I mean,
Yeah, you
because-
can ask me, like, I'll go there. You can ask me anything. I trust you.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't cover a lot. We really could have got another hour.
I feel like we barely scratched
We
the surface
barely scratched
here.
the surface. If you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, hit the subscribe button. Please do so. If you are listening on Apple Podcast, on Amazon, on iHeart, on Podbean, share this with people. We just like to have real conversations.
Yep.
That's what we like to do, is just have real conversations. Speaking of Owen Justice, if you have not downloaded his album Upstream yet, download the album. It's incredible. It's great music. If you are booking music in Kearney, in North Platte, in Columbus, in Norfolk, if you run live music out of your locations, go to owenjusticemusic.com and get a concert on the books, because you won't be disappointed in the music that he brings, live and original music. For Damon Benning, for Dr. Rob Zatechka, I'm Travis Justice. Thank you so much for listening to the Doc Talk Podcast, presented by BetFred Sports.